Hi, I'm Hope Spano from the Minneapolis Area Chamber, and today I have with me Robert and Lynne Hagmeier from Kansas Troubles Quilters. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We're so glad to have you.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah. So I just want to welcome all of our viewers to learn a little bit more about Kansas Troubles Quilters. So first of all, I want to just kind of get a background from you guys and tell me a little bit about the company, how long you guys have been around.
Well, I started quilting about 25 years ago.
Wow.
That we had quite a few junior high, high school age kids. I was just working part-time at the Quilting Bee so that I could be home when they got out of school before they ate us out of house and home, and just became totally addicted. But I couldn't leave well enough alone and had to change the pattern to simplify it.
Okay.
So I had to put my own twist on it, which a lot of quilters do, and that's wonderful. But started coming up with my own patterns. Was sewing with two other friends. That one was an employee at the Quilting Bee and a friend of hers, and we were invited to bring our finished little quilts to the River Festival under the demo area to show how we did our quilting. So we made dozens and dozens of the same thing over and over again, and I like to do it once, maybe twice, and I'm done. So after 2 or 3 years of that, one of the partners left and decided that she was tired of doing that too. The other two of us opted to just print our patterns.
Okay.
He had figured up we were making right about 85 cents an hour. Nobody's willing to pay for your labor, really, for the finished product. Mm-hmm. And friends were asking for the new patterns that we were drafting, and we were just giving it to them. So it really wasn't a good business move there. So when we decided to really become Kansas Troubles, the pattern company, we printed up a bunch of patterns. I stuck them in the back of my car, and we drove all over Kansas to the different quilt shops and peddled our patterns, and they suggested we go to International Quilt Market, because that's where all the quilt shop owners come to you to see what you're doing and purchase wholesale. So for my end of it, I was designing the patterns to sell wholesale.
Okay.
So when you start doing that, you have to have a real name. You can't just be those two guys that quilt.
Yeah.
We were all Kansas natives.
Okay.
Wanted to come up with a name that our logo could be a quilt block. So Kansas Troubles is one of the blocks that we loved.
Okay, very cool.
So this is actually our logo block, Kansas Troubles, and it has historical bases from the Civil War. A very politically minded quilter at the time made this block kind of in protest to all the feuding between Kansas and Missouri over slavery.
Okay.
So we were just drawn to the story and loved the tornado-like element of the quilt and chose that as our name. So we figured nobody else in the industry would ever have that name either. It would never be duplicated.
Well, that's very neat, because I was curious about the uniqueness of your guys' name and kind of how that came to be. So that's a great story. So the basis of your company really came about by the designing of your quilt patterns, not just selling fabric.
Right. Fabric didn't even come into play until after we had been to Quilt Market for a couple years. Our third market. Quilt Market for the wholesale industry is twice a year.
Okay.
And the third time we went to market, we had used a bunch of fabric from Moda, who is one of the best fabric companies in the industry, in my opinion.
Okay.
And we listed every fabric we put in the quilt so that shop owners could then duplicate our quilt by going to Moda and buying the fabric. And they had the SKU list, and we thought we were being really smart. Well, we had purchased the fabric at the Quilting Bee in Salina, which means that that fabric no longer existed for purchase because it was several months old. And a bolt of fabric in the quilting world, the shelf life is about 4 months.
Oh,
and then it's just gone. Yeah.
Really?
So the manufacturers aren't reprinting it, so there's no way for the shops to have it. So the owner of Moda, after the second day of market, came over to our booth and asked, "Who are you? What is a Kansas Troubles? And what are you doing with this old fabric?" So we explained our concept, and they agreed to reprint several of the fabrics so that the shops could complete the quilts, which
Nice.
we thought it was nice, but we didn't realize it had never been done before. So we didn't know how cool it was at the time.
Yeah, rule breakers.
Right. So the next year they came to us and said, "We really like what you're doing. We'd like for you to use our fabric more." So they started sending us samples of their fabric that was going to come out.
So you could kind of get ahead.
We would be ahead of the curve.
There you go.
And we did our next major project and took it to market. But most of the main elements, the backgrounds and the borders, weren't Moda because I couldn't find exactly the prints and the colors I wanted. So when the owner of Moda, Mr. Dunn, came to our booth again and said, "I see you didn't use our fabric." I'm like, "Well, you didn't have anything I liked." Instead of being upset, I know, it sounded better in my head. When he did not take offense to it. He said, "Why don't you design fabric for us then? We like your look. We like what you're doing. You make fabric you want to make quilts out of."
So it's become this big partnership, really,
It has.
to create what you want.
It has.
Okay.
So I had a few antique quilts from kind of the Civil War era. I like those prints. They're very, very detailed. But I got to colorize them any way I wanted to.
Very nice.
I can make them larger, smaller, just pluck one flower out, cut, repeat.
Nice.
So I can develop a line of fabric with big prints and small prints and geometrics and anything I want, and then make quilts out of them, create the patterns, and then sell the fabric and the patterns. So we don't directly sell the fabric to quilt shops. Moda does that. They're the fabric. They create it and distribute it. But we buy it ourselves then to make kits and sell with the patterns to everyday quilters who come in the store.
All right, so that's how it all came to be.
Yeah, it started from
And you said the quilting
patterns,
bee.
then fabric. Yeah.
Okay, so you were working there and then started designing stuff, and then how did the store here in Bennington come to be? And how long have you been here at this location?
Well, the business was in Salina at our house.
Okay.
And it was a combination of two things. She outgrew the house, and she went down to say, "Can I add on?" And they said, "No, you can't do that in a residential area." So she started looking for a building.
Okay.
And was talking to her dad one day about looking for a building, and he told her about this was coming up, was going to be available. So we came up on a Sunday afternoon and met the spokesman for the Bible church who was selling it, and out on the sidewalk we bought the building and moved in, like a week or two later, started moving in.
And when was that? How long ago?
That was in September of 2001.
Okay, so you've been here for 15 years
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Very nice. And so you're a native to Bennington?
I am. My
Okay.
parents are Charlie and Nita Boster. They live down the street.
Okay.
Actually, they live clear on the other end of Bennington, which is 5 blocks away.
I was going to say, that's so far away.
Yeah.
And then you grew up in the area as well?
Yes, I grew up in Salina.
Okay,
and that's
so
where
this
we
was-
met.
So this was a very easy transition for you guys from
Yeah.
Salina to here. It's just a prime location. Timing is everything.
It is.
So, okay, so I know that when you guys started this at this location, that a very big part of this for you guys has been the quilting retreats that you have. So I would like to just talk to you a little bit more about those quilting retreats and tell our viewers what is all entailed in that, because I know it's a really big draw for you guys. And there might be some people who don't even know about it and might really enjoy being a part of that. So tell us about that program that you guys have.
Well, downstairs, I had a vision of having all of my stuff in one place. Because at the house, I sewed in one area, I had fabric stored in one place. It was just scattered all over the house and overflowing. So having studio space where I could actually go and work was really important. So that was the main purpose of the building. This whole upstairs space was bonus. So when a couple friends came up and saw this huge space, they're like, oh my God, we're going to move in for the weekend and sew all weekend. And Robert's like, well, of course, Quilters will pay for that. So
She didn't want to charge her friends.
Isn't that true?
and I didn't.
It's so true. You just want to help your friends out.
Right.
Okay, let's do it.
So I had my space downstairs. We had very small portion, front part of the
The front
downstairs.
half of downstairs.
As
Okay.
a store, because quilters aren't going to come and stay here and not want to purchase thread and fabric,
Right.
and they're going to forget something, and those are just all the things you need to take care of, because we are kind of out away from
Yeah.
civilization.
So the big part of your business really is the retreats that you guys have. And then the store part of it kind of came as an afterthought, or
I think
It's evolved.
the biggest part is, and the constant from beginning to end has been the fabric and the quilt patterns. And she travels, does programs and teaches, but we do a lot of online. We have a website, so
Okay.
we do online sales, and we also have a store. Originally, when we were doing retreats, it was just a store for the retreat people. But in 2013, we decided to open up a store and
Okay.
actually have retail storefront. And since then, that's taken a lot of time.
okay, so been doing the retreat for 15 years, but the retail side of it's just been here for about 3 years
Right.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, it seems like it's a really good setup for you guys to have both. Okay, so you have the downstairs of your store is all retail, and then the upstairs is the retreat area. And it's weekend retreats, you have kitchen and, kind of a dormitory and stuff for the ladies. You have a big work area. Is there anything more? I mean, it's very unique,
Well, it's
but I'm sure I'm
basically-
missing other
Yeah,
details.
there's 26 steps coming up here, so a lot of people don't want to run up and down the stairs a lot. So one of the things we make sure they know is once you get upstairs, you have everything up here that you would need. Originally, when we bought the building, we lived up here for about a month or two.
Okay.
And there's a complete kitchen where we have holiday meals and such. So when you come, it's set up now to where you can have a maximum of 10 people, minimum of 8, and you can stay for like Thursday through Sunday. And there's everything up here that you would need. And if you want to bring your supplies, you can fix all your meals and such. Or there's some restaurants, nice restaurants in the area if you want to do that. But with 8 sewing tables and big sewing cutting table, a lot of the people will come here and they never go downstairs again. And so
great.
they fix all their meals, and we're doing it 14 times a year.
Okay.
which-
And you talked about your website.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your website address so that people know that?
ktquilts.com.
Okay. And that has a schedule of your retreats on there, yes?
Well, it has a profile. It has
Okay.
a brochure on there that explains the website and everything. Because the available dates change so often, you just have contact information so they can call me or Jamie and set up a time. That way we don't have one person who's signing up for it and somebody else interested in it on the website. So we
Okay.
didn't want to do it that way.
We're
Okay.
booked over a year out. So when we first book for, we're going to put 2018 on the website, in the first 30 days, we may fill up over half the spaces.
Okay.
So it's a constant challenge to keep up with what dates are available and which ones
Right.
aren't.
Okay,
so that's
so-
why you need to call Jamie and talk
Okay,
to
that's what
her
I was gonna say.
to find out what dates are available. And
Okay.
we're flexible to some degree. If we have a date we have listed, that just means we're both going to be here. And if there's another time, or there was a group of ladies all retired and they wanted to come during the week, so we'll work with you.
Okay.
If there's a certain time, we have a group that's teachers from Nebraska, so they always want to come in the summer. Well,
Right.
it's like, okay, what weekend in July would you like to come? And if we're going to be here. So yes, we establish some dates that will work, but we're also flexible.
Okay. Very nice. Well, I have learned so much about what you guys do. I love all these little details. Is there anything else that I haven't touched on that's really unique to you guys, or that would really be a draw that you think you have to come here because this is, such a great detail for us and it's a good draw that I've missed?
We're not really a normal quilt shop. Like I was referencing the Quilting Bee earlier, and Shirley Wolf was a Bennington native.
Okay.
I actually grew up with her kids and knew her very well, and she was a very special mentor to me getting into this.
Mm-hmm.
But, she had a full service quilt shop.
Okay.
Dozens of different kinds of fabric.
Yeah.
We have my fabric and
Yeah.
a very limited amount of two other people's. But nowhere else in the country do you have over 400 bolts of Kansas Troubles fabric.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, every Booker pattern we've ever done, everything that I use, from thread to rulers to the different notions. It's a very specialized quilt shop, and we get more people traveling and make this a destination as opposed to local people coming in.
Yeah.
Because it really is more of an event type thing to come here.
Yep.
We get bus trips, whole bus loads of ladies.
That's awesome.
We encourage half of them to go down the street and have lunch, because
Yeah.
50 women in there is a little much. So we give them tours of up here of the retreat space. I give demos on my technique. I have a different take on quilting. With 6 kids and 9 grandkids, our list for people requesting quilts is quite long.
Yeah.
And so I have always had the attitude that simple is the best. I want to be able to make a quilt easily so that when I give it to the grandkids and they want to make a fort out of it, I don't have a heart attack. I don't want to be working on a quilt for 6 months with all tedious, very tiny little parts and pieces, and then have the come aparts when it gets dirty, or, I want them to love it and love it to death, and then
Yeah.
I'll make them another one.
There you go.
And several of the grandkids have been involved in making or designing their own quilts as they've gotten older, so that's been fun
awesome.
too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, so what's your guys' phone number?
The business phone is 785-488-2120.
Okay, so we want to focus on, if you're interested in getting a retreat going, that's the way to go. Call the phone number and
Get 7 of your friends together.
There you go. So you have to have a group of 8.
8 minimum, yes.
In order to put a
2
retreat
nights,
together.
8 people minimum, up
Okay.
to 10.
Okay, very neat. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time today to talk a little bit more about your shop, and I hope that our viewers learned a lot about you guys, and that it draws them to, now that they understand a little bit more about the uniqueness of your place, to draw them in a little bit. So thank you guys so much.
you.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, that is it from the Minneapolis Area Chamber. We'll see you next time.